All right, now let's jump over to Glenn. It's been a year, well, not a year, but it's been since last year that we've seen him. Glynn Spangenberg, he's the CCO over at Locomation. He's got his big smile on as always. Glenn, we love having you on the show. Thanks for coming back, and I hope you had a great New Year.
Absolutely, it was a good turn of the century, or good turn of a very short century over the last couple of years. Just glad to be out of those and into another one here. We'll see if it's a year or a century to go still.
Well, Glenn, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show today is you did a webinar on the 14th. Now, this show, a lot of freightways shut down on the 17th. So, first of all, I'm not sure if it was right near the end of the year. I'm not sure if everyone who listens to the show caught that webinar. I know I did, but there was some great information, and you recapped some fascinatingly bold claims at it. So today, I think we want to go over those. So let's pretend nobody saw the webinar, and let's start there. What were some of these claims that you were making on those that I found so fascinating?
Yeah, absolutely. So there really were two extremely bold claims. One is that through the implementation of Locomation's autonomous truck technology, that carriers could lower their operating expenses by about 30%. Now, that's a huge number. That, in some cases, will triple or quadruple the profit number at the bottom line. Much of the savings comes out of fuel performance improvements, and that actually rolls into the second bold claim. And that is that shippers will have the ability to reduce approximately 21% of their greenhouse gas emissions by using carriers that are equipped with Locomation. So you get really kind of two really significant lifts. For the carrier themselves, you get an improvement in your operating profit. And for the shipper, you get the ability to reduce, for really kind of the first time in a step function, the CO2 that's being emitted out of your purchase transportation assets.
Those are pretty bold claims there, pretty amazing stuff. So it'd be nice to be able to validate those claims. Have you done that?
We sure have. In fact, we hired a company called Boundless Analysis, or Impact Research and Analytics, to review the claims that we made, and primarily because we wanted to go big and bold with the claims that were in themselves quite bold. And so this company, Boundless Impact Research and Analytics, reviewed what we were claiming. They reviewed the science behind it. They reviewed the models. They reviewed the math. And they gave us, frankly, 10 out of 10 in terms of their score for impact, both because of the efficiency for the carrier as well as the actual results in the CO2 reduction. Now, they themselves then were audited, if you will, by a world-leading climate scientist who has the ability to look at the information that's being claimed and look at it through the lens of climate science. And they gave their stamp of approval to this as well. So this now becomes a report that is not only publishable, but usable by the shippers as well. So as you get these large carriers talking to the Locomation equipped fleets, they've got the ability, and we do, to forecast exactly how much CO2 reduction will be eliminated with the implementation of the Locomation technology at that particular shipper. This is called Scope 3 analysis. It gives a clear and accurate insight on the climate and business risks that are in the shipper's supply chain. So this validation means that the shipper themselves can actually go to Wall Street and claim that over the next 5 years, they're going to reduce, given an amount, it's about 21% of the total carbon reduction that they're emitting today. So it's a significant improvement. And they have complete validity in that statement. It's no longer called greenwashing, and it actually is a certified number that they can begin to publish and take credit for as they talk about how they're reducing their carbon footprint globally.
Glenn, what's been the biggest contributor to that improvement, or contributors to that improvement?
You know, the 30% operating cost improvement really is what's driving the improvement, the reduction in the carbon emissions. And the 30% improvement in operating costs actually comes through better utilization of the equipment. So you're actually putting two loads into operation at one time. You're getting full utilization out of all of those assets. So on the line haul route, we're looking for approximately 20 to 22 hours of performance per day for the two truck convoy. Since the trucks are running in close formation, you also get a fairly significant improvement in fuel performance by about 8% through the reduction of drag. Now you get a lower percentage on the front truck and a higher percentage performance on the follower vehicle, but all in all, you've got about an 8% reduction there in cost. So the driver savings associated with the driver and the follower vehicle being off duty, not driving, the reduction in the fuel performance, the fuel spend, So those are the two biggest pieces that are combined to bring about the savings. And then the last one is just utilizing the equipment better. You have a whole lot less equipment that's needed in the supply chain. So you get also the benefit of increasing the amount of capacity that's available for shippers to be able to use. So those are the real drivers behind the numbers.
Yeah, those make perfect sense. But Glynn, let's talk about the economic viability and the implementation of this for the companies a bit. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I sure will. In fact, I ended up that webinar by making this bold claim that we'll put in the contract that if what we're talking about is not economically viable, then all bets are off. When we shared that with our first two customers, which is Wilson Logistics and PGT Trucking, those two leaders looked at it like this. Here's the amount of benefit that we get by choosing Locomation. Here's the amount of benefit that our shippers get by choosing us because we're a Locomation equipped carrier. And here's the amount of risk that Locomation is willing to take by saying, if this is not economically viable, then all bets are off. We've essentially made kind of a win-win scenario for everybody in that there's a lot we don't know about autonomous vehicles, autonomous trucking, and how this will actually play out. We believe we have the best model in town, and that is an autonomous truck that follows a human-guided truck. But if at the end of the day we get there and these customers have committed to us to purchase units and it turns out it's not economically viable, then all bets are off. And so this is really one of those rock solid claims that numbers are big, risk is down, choose Locomation. There's a lot to be had in the near term as well as the long term.
Now, Glynn, I got a question for you. It's just more of a curiosity one as we were watching that video on the ARC. So you have the follower vehicle, right? And I imagine you're going over the road. When you pull in to park for the night, I imagine the follower vehicle just finds a parking space next to you. How exactly does that work?
Yeah, so the way it actually works is that because of the fact that the follower driver can go off duty not driving and actually go to sleep and rest, there is less necessity for those vehicles to pull off and actually find a place to go to sleep. If the leader driver says, hey, look, I want to do a split sleeper berth here, and the plan is built out to where the follower driver knows when they need to get out of their bunk, and the follower then gets back into formation and it becomes the follower, they take their rest break right there. They can take their 30-minute rest break without having to find a parking spot, and they can take their 10 hours of off-duty not driving time as well in order to find rest in the follower vehicle. So a lot of planning is going into how do you swap the drivers, leader and follower? When do you do that? And then also, how do you enable the drivers to make their own call, sort of a game time call related to being sleepy and wanting to swap spaces for 30 minutes or an hour or 2 hours or, whatever, even if it's their split sleeper berth that they want to take in the back there, they've got the ability to do that. So the convoy keeps moving while one driver drives and one driver rests. And that's one of the biggest benefits in the whole equation, because that's what drives utilization and that drives a better system altogether for the drivers that we serve.
See, I like that. That's my kind of team driving too. I don't have to have you next to me in the same vehicle. You're behind me, Michael Vincent.
Is that what you'd rather have?
I don't have to deal with you. Well, hey, this is our prediction show too. So, Glynn, before we let you go, any predictions for what we're going to see in this autonomous space this year in 2022?
Yes, I believe that we're going to see a lot of hand waving around the completely sololess trucks, boasting about getting the driver out. I don't think we're going to see a commercially viable deployment of any of those trucks soon. I do also think that you're going to see an autonomous follower truck in a human-guided scenario through this company called Locomation. Frankly, that's why I chose them. And I think that's something that we'll see hauling freight at the end of this year in grand fashion. And so those are my two big predictions.
I always love the realistic approach that Locomation takes. They take a very honest and real, and I'm not just saying that, you guys take an honest and realistic approach to this, and you're not trying to promise the world. I saw a couple displays I wasn't at CES, but someone sent me some of the materials of some of these displays, and what they're sort of promising out of the tech. I don't know if it's 2022 ready. I always like what you guys have to say, though. I appreciate it. Locomation, check him out. Glynn, one more time, we'll catch you up. My prediction is we'll catch up with you again in 2022.
That sounds great, Dinner. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thanks. All right. We got